Good morning, and welcome back to the farm. You know, there's a lot of people that are concerned with the younger generation. They seem to think, or they have the impression that they're, well, not the brightest bunch, that they're irresponsible, that they can't step up when the need arises. They're all fat, lazy, and in their parents' basement. Let's talk about that for a minute. Here on the farm, we've got several different generations that either have worked here, are currently working here, or will work here. And the entire basis of a family farm is to span those generations. And so I've had the opportunity, being, well, basically a baby boomer, to watch a couple generations come through here. And of course, now we've got two little ones. We've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old set of granddaughters that I can't wait for them to come. The baby boomers basically are from 1946 to 1964. That's me. There's Gen X between 1965 and 1980. There's Gen Y, or millennials, which is 81 to 96. And they even break down Gen Y, Gen Y, I don't know what all this stuff is. And then Generation Alpha, which is the newest one from anybody born from 2012. I have seen all of these generations step up when they need to. I have seen young people, young people, like 10, 11, 12-year-olds come out here to the farm and want to learn. Very enthusiastic, want to work with the animals. I had a couple young ladies come out one time and plant about 400 lettuce plants. Why? Because they wanted to. This doesn't really sound like a generational problem, but let me tell you a story that quantified, and this just happened, my thoughts on the younger generation. I was at a sporting event last Friday night. And this was a football event in high school. I don't go to a lot of high school games, but this last year I certainly have gone to as many as I could get to. It's pretty entertaining. Well, this is the high school playoffs here in Tennessee. And the team that I follow went to basically 3.5 hours away to play in a state playoff game. And they were playing a team that was unbeaten. And they were pretty darn good. And as the first quarter went, things stayed relatively close. The second quarter, things got a little more out of hand. The third quarter, the wheels came off, and the team I follow was absolutely having problems everywhere. Offense, defense, they couldn't hold them. They were messing up. They got a safety. It was an absolute mess. And as the fourth quarter rolled in, they were behind by a couple touchdowns. A little less than a couple touchdowns. Well, with about 7 minutes left in the game, I'd seen them carry off people. These young men were fighting. They were in the middle of the moment. At this juncture, one of the key players on the team came out. Apparently, he had been hit very hard by a couple guys, and he was out for the count. Hopefully not a major thing, but to this day I don't know. I saw some of the linemen come out. I saw one of them hop off the field. This was like 40 yards, hopped off the field, got taped back up and go back in. Nobody made them go out on the field. They went on their own. These guys were hurting. They were crying. They were bleeding. They were doing all kinds of stuff. They were having problems. There were 7 minutes left in this game, and as the quarterback sits on the bench, he was sitting there, had his head down. And there were those around him in the offense and the defense, and players and friends were coming up trying to cheer him up. There were select people running around trying to rally this team. Some of the older men that were out there. I say men, probably seniors. And you could see something change. The team started to come together. They knew they had a backup quarterback that had to go in. They knew that they were hurting. They knew that many of those players were playing less than at their best. And yet they came together, went back out on the field. It was one of those Rudy moments when you could just feel the atmosphere. A young man stepped on the field. I have no idea who he was. Tried to fill the quarterback, who was quite accomplished, by the way. Tried to fill his shoes. And they drove down the field, bleeding, crying, hopping around, barely moving in some cases. They got down the field and scored. Doesn't sound like a lost generation at this point. The crowd started to get back in the game. You could see the entire place lift. And as the game proceeded, things went back and forth, but there was less than a minute left. And this particular team, with their battered and bruised line, their receivers that are kind of hopping around, and their backup quarterback, had less than a minute. Well, at about 39 seconds, as the wheels started to come off on one of the final plays, they scored. I have to admit, it was inspiring to watch. These kids that were beaten, it was over, come together and secure a victory. So, do we really need to worry about the younger generation? I kind of doubt it. I suspect that this is something our parents and their parents and throughout the generations have all gone through. They look at the younger folks and go, Anyway, this is a true story. Until next time, I'll see you down at the barn.